Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of history. So I wanted us to go over this awesome video from Mona Rose, and go ahead and like and subscribe to this person. This is about the Star-Spangled Banner as you've never heard it before. Now, I know a lot of us Americans grew up, if you're, from back in the day, before they took it out of the classroom, growing up with the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, before school starts, where you would have to stand up, put your hand over your heart, and you just kind of were just repeating it, and I know me personally, I don't really remember history about it. I just knew it was important, that this was our, our country's anthem. And I'm pretty sure that once you guys fully understand what it actually means, the American flag and the American anthem really means to Americans, I think at that point you'll understand why they take it so to heart when people trash it or disrespect it. So let's go ahead and jump into the video.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't show.
Wow, so that's crazy that all that army came to kind of take this over, and they're like, oh no, it doesn't matter, we're just gonna and the war's gonna be over, you guys are gonna be free. That's crazy.
That fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort.
Wow.
They said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war...
It's kind of crazy how that war fleet was coming to this base that housed mainly women and children, and they didn't care. This is one of the reasons we stand up, you know, as Americans, because we're standing up for the little guy, for the men and women, you know, and the children, and the people that can't fight. And it's disgusting to know that they were coming in to just blow this up, or tell us to, like, you know, lay down our arms, you know, and accept, you know, to be part of the British colony. And it's like, wow, so you're literally just gonna murk us if we don't? Like, that was the whole point of them coming to America, so they could be freed of that.
Fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when hit had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British...
Gotta stop, man. Wow, like, that's crazy that... And I love that quote because I definitely live by that quote where, you know, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, because it's not living if you are. You have to, hold the line. You gotta stand up, because who else is gonna do it? But wow, to know that these people are sacrificing their lives for the flag, to hold that line, that's like, wow. It's like taking my breath away.
Guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? For the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid."
Wow, so like that's crazy. Like, I don't remember that in growing up in school and learning that in school. It's definitely very emotional to know, and I can understand why the American spirit is so strong, and why you have a lot of people, a lot of patriots, a lot of Americans feel so disrespected when people disrespect the flag. And people have the right to freedom of expression. That's the whole point of our country. But it's like, you understand more why it hurts and it's disrespectful, because there was these patriots that sacrificed their lives just so you could be here free. And a lot of these people forsake that because they don't realize it, because they don't know the history. So let's go ahead and finish off the video.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets break clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So that's our history lesson for today. I just wanted to share this video because I found it interesting and intriguing. I feel like, especially with the climate that we're currently in, where everything that's going on in our country, sometimes it's good to remember history and to remember the sacrifices that those that came before did for us. And it's also a way for you to understand why so many Americans feel so hurt or disrespected when you're seeing, these protesters, burning the American flag and stepping on it, and, just sitting during the national anthem. It's disgusting to know the sacrifices that were made by those people for us, and to know that they lost it. Somewhere along the line, they lost this part of history to understand and comprehend the sacrifices that were made for them to be able to do what they get to do today. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you guys knew the history of the national anthem, or if this was new to you. So let me know if there's any other history stuff that you want me to go over for American history. I do want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Till next time, bye.